welcome to the 107th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense anime podcast. Today, we'll be breaking down anime that aired during the 7th week of the summer 2019 season. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we're going to be spoiling literally everything about everything else. My name is Bcom, and you could cut my head off right now, and I would put it back on until I make you listen to me talk about Chihaya Furu Season 3, coming next season. Also with me are Kat and Leo.
That's very true.
Are we with him?
Have you started watching Leo yet?
No.
I haven't seen a single goddamn episode of Chihaya Furu.
You have exactly 30 days.
And I won't. I refuse. Fuck you, Bcom.
That's really
Fuck
dumb.
you.
People are going to be pissed at you.
I am like dying trying to keep up with this season. And now we're planning on doing a double episode next week. So like, I don't know when I'm going to get to it.
Oh, is it hard, Leo? Try having to watch fucking Hunter x Hunter too. Tell me how hard it is.
I did do that. We had like a slow season 2 or 3 seasons back, and I did watch all of Hunter x Hunter.
You know what must be really hard, Leo, is watching anime when you're playing so much Borderlands 3. That must be really
also
hard.
The other thing, like, Borderlands 3 is so good, which is my nonsense I'm going to talk about.
Because shooting the real fire.
It's super fucking good, and you
Are
really...
you having like a bunch of performance issues, though, on Xbox, or no? Because everybody else
sounds like you're asking about something else when you say it that
Are you
way.
having problems getting Borderlands up?
No. So, okay, there are a couple issues, but like I was talking with my buddy Kyle, who I play all my video games with, like, we're not surprised that there's some hiccups. I mean, that's just... Unfortunately, that's the norm when a new game comes up. It's just, like, messed up. So, like, once or twice when I went to boot the game, it just failed for whatever reason. That's not a big deal because I just booted again and it's fine. I've had points where the frame rate almost drops to, like, 0, but then it comes right back and it's fine. Outside of that frame rate issue, I'm running at 60 frames per second. It's beautiful. Love it. What other hiccups? Oh, the on console, because I've talked to some PC users, but on console, when you open your menu, it drags. Like, it makes Destiny almost look fast at times. You know how bad that can get sometimes. Become like, it's the worst when you open it up on your screen with your skill tree. That'll open up, and I've had that do a full 10 to 15 seconds before it finally opened all the way up. The other ones aren't too bad, and like when you hit your RBs and LBs to switch between each screen, it just it takes it 2 to 3 seconds most of the time. So like that, if they get that menu system fixed, that would be amazing, because it's just like every time you gotta go to your menu. Outside of that, the game's fucking amazing. It's so much fun. We actually beat the main story yesterday, and it's very long. It was amazing. I loved everything about it. I love the new characters. I love the old characters coming back, as always, because they're always funny. The guns, of course, are great. I've gotten a lot of the orange or gold drops, which are really, really cool and awesome guns. You do, through the main story, towards the end, you do get the gun that shoots the guns.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. What it does is it costs like 10 iridium, which is
material, yeah.
Not a material,
currency?
Currency, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a type of currency. And that's really not a big deal. And the guns are generally just like a bunch of greens, and maybe if you're lucky wearing 2 blues, I guess a purple can pop out every once in a while. But what I thought was really impressive is that this story, the cast can become very female heavy at times, which is really cool.
That's cool.
And like there's like, and this was early on, like I'm watching the scene, I'm like, there's 4 or 5 females on screen and not a single guy. And all these females are in very authoritative, important roles. Like, without them, shit's going down.
I have to laugh at like the way like Leo says female a bunch. You could just say like women on screen or girls or something.
It's just like he's never around one.
It's like part of like the Midwestern like lexicon or something. I don't know.
It's not. It's definitely not. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and even on like the bad guy side, like they put in female bandits this time, which haven't been in the other 2 games.
There weren't any, really? I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all males. Everybody's a woman. So, like, even the bad guys this time around, they're pretty cool. They're called the Calypso twins. They're a brother and sister combo. And it's actually the female that's running the show.
Oh my god.
She literally calls her brother.
You make it sound like it should be in a zoo or something.
The famale.
It's not normal for this many female women to be on screen. It's usually
female women.
I stopped myself. I didn't say the full word. I switched to woman. And then like I said, the girl's running the show, and she literally calls her brother a parasite at one point. And it's you. Are you going to pick this up, Bcom? Because
I still don't know yet. Because like everything I've heard about the game has been horrible until you just talked about it. Yeah, I've only heard bad things about this game, pretty much.
No, a lot of the clan from Destiny's playing like that. So basically, for the most part, it's me, Ermagerd, and Topaz. And we love the game. I started off with Mose, who is... Actually, I'm sorry. I started off to Beastmaster. Got to like the level 13. I switched to Mose because I wasn't really feeling him. Mm-hmm. And Mose has been fucking amazing. She's the one who drives the mech. So...
The thing is, like, Destiny goes free to play on October 1st. And, like, I'll probably start playing that then. And that's, like, basically a week away, a little bit more. So, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to pick up Borderlands until it's, like, heavily discounted, probably.
Yeah, well... I mean, Destiny did delay, and everybody's pretty sure it was because Borderlands was coming out like 3 days afterwards.
Exactly.
And kind of the reasoning behind that is because a lot of the people who play Destiny were going to play Borderlands.
Yeah.
So like it was just conflicting. It's like how do we balance this?
Yeah, exactly. Oh well, Kat, do you have any nonsense to talk about?
We were supposed to record this episode on Friday, and we didn't.
Yeah.
And I went to Cincinnati on Saturday for a friend's birthday, and we partied a lot.
You partied?
We did.
That's like the first time you've ever partied. I'm so proud of you.
Fuck you. Tequila Kat came out, and I... was Tequila Kat, and we went back to our place and we all collapsed, and we woke up this morning. We had planned to maybe go to the Cincinnati Zoo because she lives really close, and like one of my friends who didn't drink very much was like, let's go, and the rest of us looked at her like, no.
I can't look at an animal right now. I'll throw up.
We just have to focus on surviving. We just need to focus on breathing.
Jesus. How much tequila did you drink? Yikes.
Hey, I was not the drunkest person in our group. I take great pride in this. Okay. All right. But yeah, so I just got my hot, happy ass back in town, and I'm here.
Well, thank you for being here.
And that's my nonsense. What's your nonsense?
My nonsense is sort of going to be joint nonsense with you, Kat, because you saw the movie that I went to see back at Anime Expo.
Promare?
I finally got to see Promare. It came out, it was like a Fathom event. There's like a subtitled showing and a dub showing. I saw it subtitled. So I'll say right off the bat, like first like 15 or 20 minutes of this movie are very action heavy, as it's like just sort of introduces a bunch of characters and then just jumps right into action. And I was like, I don't know if I'm like really into this, like, because first thing that took getting used to was the art style and the animation style, which are very CG and digital heavy. Which is like a departure from like things that Trigger has done in the past, or just like more digital than they've done in the past. And I was like, this looks interesting, but I wonder how they're going to use it to do cool things. And like in the first 20 minutes, I wasn't sold. And then they kept throwing characters at me. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens when this movie finally slows down. And it does.
It never does.
No, it does slow down. People say it doesn't, but it does.
Slow down.
They went to get pizza.
To the moon. That movie is a rocket to the moon.
There are definite slow parts.
Slow down.
There are 1,000% slow parts in this movie.
There are small slow parts, but you have to admit, almost all that movie is just like, bam, like explosions. Like, come on.
So like The explosions were cool. But what really hooked me about this movie was when they did like slightly slow down and start like introducing the characters. And we learned more about the two main characters, Leo and like Gallo. Yeah, Leo, you're in this movie, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Congratulations.
Is it the blue hair guy?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think
Who I thought was a girl the whole time. Because like he has a very feminine look. Yeah.
I'm looking at the trailer and I don't understand why you think that. This is a guy.
He has
Clearly.
a very feminine face.
They psych you out a lot in this movie with
He's
like
also
the romance
fucking
angle and
shirtless.
stuff.
They do. Don't spoil it, Kat, but yeah, they do psych you out.
Yeah, they psych you out a lot. And you're like, what?
I fucking love it so much, Kat. Oh my god. It's such a surprising thing to come from Trigger, but like, yeah, like basically an hour into this, or like, I don't know, I would say like 45 minutes into this movie until the end, I was just goofily smiling at literally everything that happened. Trigger was like saving anime. I was just like so happy, like everything that was happening. And there's also like so many fucking like modern political metaphors in this movie. Like,
yeah, there are a lot.
Yeah, like they're going up against this like group that has like an enforcement squad called like the Freeze, which is basically ICE in the United States, who are like deporting immigrants. And like, yeah, these Burnish are the people that Leo leads, and who are like being discriminated against. And there's also like a whole environmentalism angle, because like the planet is like exploding with lava because like these people are being discriminated against. And fucking like the bad guy, like who's very clearly the bad guy from the beginning, like even though it's not like stated outright, is like All Might, except like if All Might was Donald Trump.
Yes, I felt like this movie is just so full of soul. Like everything in it is just exploding with flavor.
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like when I was watching this at Anime Expo, it felt like Studio Trigger just came out onto the stage like butt naked with a machine gun and just like shot into the sky and was like, "What do you think of that?" and just like walked out. Like,
yeah,
they couldn't have killed it any more than they did. I don't know.
So I just watched it. Yeah. I just watched a trailer, and it is very explodey on Kat's part. That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And this Leo guy is shirtless in half the scenes in this trailer, so I don't know why you thought it was a woman.
When you see the movie, you tell me what you think after that.
It's a very androgynous character.
I
thought it was a woman too,
yeah.
until he took off his suit. I thought it was a woman.
Yeah. There is some incredible animation in this movie at points. Like, there's one point where like a volcano explodes, like maybe halfway through the movie, and like a person is inside of it, and when the volcano explodes, the magma sort of like is in the shape of their face for a second because they're like raging with anger, and then like it continues to explode. And I was like, oh, that's going to be like this huge shot. That'll be the best shot in this movie. And then the last like half hour of the movie is all shots like that.
It's
like,
all the best shot. It's all the best shot. That's
unbelievable. Secret. It's like it made me feel like watching Kill la Kill and like Gurren Lagann over again.
It felt like they took the two and made them have sex, and like this is the baby.
Okay,
or something.
I made a mistake. I was thinking the Gallo guy was Leo. You're right. The Leo.
Yeah, no.
Fotia. Yeah, that looks like a woman right off the bat.
Okay, now we're on the same page.
Okay, yeah, we're on the same page now. I was just. Yeah, you see why I was sitting here thinking you were fucking crazy.
Well, last thing I want to say about this movie, there's a lot of like mech piloting near the end, but it's like tandem mech piloting, and it's like it's if Darling in the Franxx was good. It's like if Darling in the Franxx was actually good.
There were actually some shots that were so fan servicey with like the ass shot, and I'm just like, am I watching Darling in the Franxx again?
Was Darling in the Franxx their dry run? You think?
Basically, like maybe it's like
know.
the same idea almost. Yeah, for a lot of it. There's a lot of similarities between the plot of Darling in the Franxx and this. It's just like this movie is so much better and less complicated and dumb.
So. The music is really good too.
Thank you for reminding me.
I think that's part of what makes it so good. Yeah,
it is really, really good. I always make fun of like Sawano's soundtracks for being like the same every time since like Gundam Unicorn, but his music in this movie really, really stood out. Like there were some amazing tracks in there. And like there was this like panel of Trigger guys who did like a little bit after the credits of the movie ended, and they were talking about it. And like this one guy just kept saying that like, oh yeah, every time I listen to that song, like I cry. Every time I see this animation, I cry. So yeah, they this is definitely like a passion project for them, and it turned out super well. Definitely go see it. It is awesome. So yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, we ready to talk about actual anime that's airing?
Yeah, it's Kat. You're up first.
All right, Kat.
All right. So, like, we've got this fucking Dumbbells anime to review. Episode 7.
It's an idol
love
show
it.
now.
I hated that entire part of it. The only good part of this episode is the first fucking part, not this damn idol bullshit.
They tricked you into watching an idol anime. I'm so happy.
It's not an idol thing. It's
thought the
not
idol,
at all.
I thought the idol part was really funny.
It's dumb. You guys are stupid. So I don't know.
I agree. I am stupid.
But anyway, we find out that Russian girl. I need to learn her name already.
Well, okay, here's the thing. Okay, earlier in the subtitles for this anime, they were calling her Xena with a Z, and now they're just calling her Gina with a G instead. So, I don't know what's going on. I think her name is Gina. Xena sounds more Russian to me, though. It's like a weird switch. I'm not sure what's going on.
I can't tell you from memory what they're doing in the manga right now, either with her name.
I think in the manga they call her Xena, I'm pretty sure, with a Z.
That sounds right, I want to say.
Yeah.
But
So that's weird. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, so we find out Gina is learning Japanese through anime, which makes sense with some of her incorrect assumptions and like stereotype shit. There's a point where she's like, Jackie Chan really helped me. And everyone's just like, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she wants to like visit Hong Kong, and like later in the episode she wants to visit like Macau, and they have to keep telling her like, those aren't in Japan, Gina, okay?
Yeah, it was fun. Then the group later goes to one of these grilled meat places, and it's called like yakiniku. It's basically just barbecue, Japanese barbecue. And, you know, everyone's like, I don't know, it's almost like an educational time. So Hibiki works at this place, like, just incidentally or
her
whatever.
brother opened the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they turned it into this very interesting little session about beef and the differences in the cuts and everything.
Which goes way deeper than what the show does, but it's a good surface brush.
I know, yeah. So apparently tenderloin is like really low calorie and high in protein, which I didn't know. But I guess it makes sense. Like if you look at tenderloin, it doesn't look like there's a lot of meat, like fat there.
Yeah. It's not a really fatty cut.
Yeah, and then they talk about how liver is also low calorie, which I think we all know. But like, who fucking eats liver in the U.S.? I guess they eat it.
I went to a German restaurant a couple weeks ago, and I got this appetizer that was like a liver dumpling soup. It was like liver meatballs and soup, and it was delicious.
But how often do you eat liver and you don't go to a specialty fucking restaurant?
Yeah, you're not buying it at the store and like taking it home and cooking it up with some onions.
That was probably the first time I'd eaten liver since I was like 5. So
exactly.
yeah, it's been
exactly.
a while.
Yeah. So, and then they mentioned a cut called galbi, which I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And we found out it's ribs. Like we all looked it up. And they call it nutrient rich but high in calories. And I feel like that's just them being like, you probably shouldn't eat this, but I guess you will anyway. They also said high sugar, which I don't really feel like meat has high sugar.
No, I think if I had to guess, they're referring to like the barbecue sauce on it.
Probably.
Okay, because they didn't show
Yeah.
them having barbecue sauce on it. But I guess if it is ribs, it probably
never known
has it
any
on there.
fat that really have sugar. So
Yeah. And then they said that Japanese sirloin tends to have more calories than imported, which has to be U.S. beef, because I feel like the USA like makes a lot of the beef that gets distributed.
yeah,
It's
and
just like-
in Japan, their cows are fattier
Yeah.
because they're more marbled cuts. So yeah, you're going to have more calories that way.
Yeah, I guess because if you looked at the two pictures they had, like Japanese meat, imported meat, like it did look like it really just was that it had more fat, which I don't really know if that's a good thing.
More flavor.
It tastes better, but yeah.
But
Yeah.
like whenever I get a steak and it has too much fat, it doesn't taste great to me to like have to cut into this big old gob of fat. I don't know.
That's the marbleization. Back to that term. When it's marbled in there, like you think, like literally think a marble table. When it's distributed evenly, it's really good. But then when it's like portioned into like the big slab, like you're talking about, then it's no, it's not. Not on its own.
I don't like that either. When it's like just a big
I mean
slab.
that's why they generally cut off most of the fat for that reason. You don't want to eat it.
Okay. Yeah, it's not that great. But yeah, then Hibiki eats this huge meal on her break, and it's like once again her cheat day, and I'm just like, Hibiki, no. We all know that that's bullshit.
She eats so much in that one meal that would like survive me 3 meals for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I wouldn't want it, but like I don't know how she doesn't feel so full. I don't know. And then Gina talks about like, oh, there was a famous wrestler who ate like a huge amount as part of his training,
and he's totally from Kengan Omega.
Oh, okay. I was like, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I know exactly who that was.
It just made me think of all the coverage they used to do of how Phelps
Kengan Ashura, whichever one's which.
Oh, Michael Phelps, the swimmer, just like ate a ton of calories every day.
Yeah, like you remember those news segments they used to do for a while where they're like, and this is Michael Phelps's lunch, and it had like the table almost wouldn't fit it all, and he'd be like trying to eat, and I'm just like, I don't know how you're not vomiting. So it made me think of that. And then he talks about how her gym fees and like food expenses are high, which of course your fucking food expenses are high, Hibiki. Means she has to work 5 days a week. And another girl points out the school will cover her gym membership. I really didn't understand why they put that part in, the gym membership part. But okay.
I think it's just like to joke around with Hibiki's character.
And isn't like Akemi's sister like the school principal or something? Like, cause
she's
they were like
on the board or something like
board,
that.
Yeah. They're saying like, oh, she'll pay for it like personally, and they're like, how rich is your family?
Well, we saw her house.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, her house is big. And then Gina finds out about Satomi being that famous cosplayer later in the episode because of like her mole or something. And I just thought to myself, a lot of people have fucking moles. Like, this is not, I don't know. She could have totally denied it if Satomi wasn't a fucking idiot.
Also, like, I absolutely cannot like recognize people in and outside of their cosplay. Like, they just look completely different. Like, I can't recognize them.
I don't think I've ever tried to compare. Huh?
It's hard, man. Like, I see pictures get posted. I'm like, wait, that's what they look like outside of the cosplay.
Oh, actually, I can say I can because I've seen Dado's Mad Moxie cosplay.
Well, that's Dado.
Which is like, number one, very disturbing, but done well. But like, I could see him in his cosplay. I'm like, that's Dado. There's no doubt in my mind. I'll find a picture for you, Kat, so you know what we're talking about.
Cool.
Okay. But yeah, so as like blackmail to keep Gina like quiet, she has Satomi go out with her for the day and like dresses her as her favorite, I think it's a Dragon Ball Z character, for a shoot, and even go to Akihabara with her. And I'm just like, you're kind of an asshole. Like, Satomi is like a sugar sweet soul. Like, leave her alone.
I think she was dressed as Chun-Li from Street Fighter. I'm pretty sure, if I remember, but I could be wrong. Yeah.
No, you're right. That's who she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chunners.
And then they talk a bit about active versus passive rest, like on their trip to Akihabara. And apparently, I guess this makes sense. Like, cardio improves your blood circulation. So, like, the idea is like light cardio that doesn't really make you like breathe hard, like super hard or anything. Mm-hmm. Can help you recover and be less lazy between workout sessions.
Passive rest is, active rest is something that just makes me want to punch like a gym trainer in the face. Like, I want to passively rest. Fuck you. I don't want to actively rest.
I don't understand. I mean, it's not rest if you're not resting. I don't know. Like, I get it. I get the idea that really what they're saying is even if you don't work as hard, you should still work almost every day. I that's what they're really saying. I wish they would just say shit like that instead of saying like you can active rest.
Exactly. Like, just call it what it is,
It's working out. It's just you want me to do it lighter because I fucked myself over the other day. I don't know. Whatever, gym trainers, we're on to you. So But yeah, so they talk about like, don't go full throttle. And if you're sick, you shouldn't use active rest. And I'm just like, fuck you. And then Machio randomly gets like this flex shot in here just for no reason. I guess because he hadn't had a chance to take off his shirt the rest of the episode or something.
Yep. Get used to it.
But whatever. And then the last segment is the dumb idol segment, which I did not enjoy at all. The girls all decide they're gonna take part in this idol contest because fuck, why not? And they come out on stage and they have like the guys from the gym like lift them onto stage and just stand there. And they all have masks on. They look like they're in a BDSM shoot. And I'm just like, this is not the best choice.
Only one has a mask on.
No, the men, the guys have face masks on.
Yeah.
They look like they're in a BDSM shoot. Yeah, Satomi is in a fencer's mask, but that's different.
Yeah, so that was a reference apparently, like because she calls herself "fuck the Budo," which is apparently a reference to this 1983 anime called Muscle Man, which has a character named Big the Budo who wears like a kendo mask or whatever in the show. So yeah, that's what I was like, what the hell is this referencing? I had to try and figure it out, and it took me a while, but yeah, I found it. Anyway, makes sense that they're referencing Muscle
cool,
Man though.
Yeah, they do a lot of the references in this anime. It's kind of cool. But yeah, so instead of, they don't even do anything idle. That's the part that irritates. Like if they had actually tried to sing like and incorporated muscly stuff into it, maybe I would have liked it. But like they didn't even fucking sing. Like they just basically do a talent show. That's what this fucking was. So they, instead of singing or doing any of the idle shit they're supposed to be doing, they spar, they bench press, and Satomi does a deadlift, which is supposed to be really impressive. Like, she doesn't even lift it above her head. All she does is, like, lift it off the ground and then put it back the fuck down. And I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not that impressed. Like, I don't know. Maybe that makes me a bitch, but that didn't impress me. And weirdly, everyone loved it. And I feel like real life people would just be like, what? And they'd be confused. Yeah. And the idea that everyone would love it is just bullshit. And I don't know. I was mad. I was like, this is stupid. This is a dumb way to waste 10 minutes of the show. That's one of my favorite shows of this season. Like, give me more educational shit about beef or something. I don't know. And then the little bit at the end they always do was the lateral raise today. And it's okay, but they didn't actually cover that in the show. And I like it better when they like go back to something that you saw in the show for the last thing. So I'll critique that.
Yeah, they kind of been changing it up at the end a couple times recently. So it's just like, it's not even anything they talked about at all during the show, which is like, okay, I guess. This
show needs to... Okay, so recently I've noticed this show has been getting off on these weird tangents sometimes. Like the arm wrestling thing and this idol thing. Mm-hmm. I don't like those weird tangents. I want them to stick to the goddamn, like, diet and teaching you shit about, like, exercise stuff. I really like that, and it's entertaining. I don't like these dumb tangents. I've seen those things a million times in other anime, and they're not that entertaining to me.
Well, I think they tend to do it to kind of mix things up a little bit, so it's just not such a monotonous thing every single time, like, oh, we're gonna learn a new exercise this time.
To me, it is monotonous. Like, the thing that's new about this anime is that it's unique, not that they do the same things all the other fucking anime that are mediocre do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, hopefully they'll do more, like, straight, like, training stuff, because I do like that a lot, too.
Yeah.
It'd be too bad if they didn't.
It's not like it's super serious. Like, it's always in a joking manner. Yeah. Like, you're never like, oh, I'm very diligently writing notes while listening to this. Like, it's entertaining. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about Maidens in your Savage season. Because this is entertaining. What was that, Kat?
Yeah. I mean...
I couldn't tell if you were agreeing or you were just like, ugh.
Well, I've been watching ahead on this anime, and
Ooh,
it gets interesting.
it does. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I feel
Episode 7 has an interesting title called Jiggling Then After.
Man, that jiggling part. Oh man. Oh god. Here we go.
It was the weirdest thing of like trying to be poetic. I was just like, no. Okay, so Hitoha ambushes Tomoki when he takes the trash out. At first, she wants to see his room and to be alone with him in it. She also says she is wearing a very thin mawashi and wants him to pick her up by it and throw her to the ground. And instead, he grabs her arm and pulls her to him like he's going to kiss her. And it's just like too much for her. And Tomoki laughs because she can't even handle a kiss and like walks away. And he's like, and you wanted to wrestle, but you can't handle a little kiss? Whatever.
I also laughed at her because she gets like all poetic. She's like, I feel the dampness of the ground underneath me, as if my underwear aren't even there. And I'm like, they aren't there. You're wearing a thong, girl. Of course that's like, that's why you feel it.
So, yeah. But also when, what's his name walks away, he kind of pauses. Like he's a little bit still concerned about her. Like, maybe I shouldn't have laughed or not. I don't know. Kind of got that feeling.
Yeah.
Momoko is getting some trouble from Satoshi, who isn't really taking the hint that she doesn't like him. He first calls and then says a text asking if she's alive. You're fine so far. Then when she texts him back, he calls again.
Yeah, that's so fucked up.
Fucking dirtbag move.
Such a dirtbag move.
Like, that's like, I saw this. I was like, can we start referring to Satoshi as Chad now? Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, he's being a dickbag, really.
I will say on his part, he's in high school. So, like, you know, you accidentally, as a guy, do make some mistakes sometimes, and you don't really realize it was a dirtbag move at the time. Like, I can look back.
He acts like he's not ever done anything wrong, though. And
he does. Like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you not aware that what you're doing is, like, such a shitty bitch move? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
High schoolers. That's all I gotta tell you. So Momoko goes back to the room and tells Rika she doesn't understand why they are supposed to like boys, especially when girls' skin is so much smoother and you just want to pet it. And then just all this other stuff about girls. And I'm like, she's totally a lesbian. There is like, I do not doubt this in the slightest at this point in this show, which is fine. It's just like she hasn't realized it herself yet. And like Rika tells her, maybe it's because we were supposed to be attracted to opposites, and like it makes Momoko wonder if she has like big pores like guys, and like if she's like a guy because she likes girls more or something like that. And then the rest of it is like Rika thinking about how Momoko will never stand love like she does now. But then they both have that moment where they both eat the Pocky and she's like, it's bittersweet. Momoko's like, you know, I like it because it's bittersweet. She's like, what the fuck? You actually think like I do?
I also laughed really hard, or like a little earlier in that scene when Momoko said, like, there's some really complicated girls out there, but none of the girls in the lit club are like that. And I was like, you don't know these girls, Momo. Like,
yeah,
they're
have
pretty
no
fucking complicated.
Hitoha ends up arriving in a bad mood and says that if you wear matching thongs with your sweetheart, you will marry after graduation. And the girls are like, maybe you need a longer break. She's basically coming back being pissed about her confrontation with Tomoki. And Kazuha eventually comes to, but is like still in a bit of the daze. But she's also dressed, so I guess Nina dressed her?
Yeah, probably put some clothes on her just so she wasn't laying naked there. Yeah.
I was like, you have an unconscious body and you're like putting clothes on it. I just know that sounds weird.
Can be awkward.
And yeah, Kazusa is still worried about Nina stealing her man and cannot stop comparing her boobs to Nina's, which she thinks are very pretty and a lot better than hers. And
her stupid boobs, as she calls them.
It's like, this is such a typical girl thing too.
As I was watching this, I was like, if I ask Kat, I'm going to assume she's gonna be like, this is 100% legit.
All girls always compare their boobs. I feel like it's the same thing. Girls and boobs are very similar to guys and dicks. Like, anytime you're in the locker room, don't lie, I know you all look at each other's dicks and are like, is mine bigger than his? And like, I know you do, because girls do the same fucking thing. They all look at each other's tits and they're like, oh, are mine better than her tits? And like, it's weird. It's weird how you get into the comparison stuff.
Yeah. So like I was like, all right, like I said, I felt like, yeah, this is definitely a typical high school conversation she would have inside her head.
Yeah, it's very typical.
Yeah, she starts asking Nina hypothetically if she likes Izumi, but stops herself before she gets the whole thing out. And Nina, on the other hand, is like demanding she ask her so that she can get this relationship thing solved, we think so far. But they unfortunately get interrupted by the other three, and Rika scolds them because, we're the Lit Club. We know better than anybody else that words can truly hurt you. And then, to let out all this angst, the girls have a pillow fight after asking permission from the inn owners.
Yeah, that was kind of nice of them.
And it kind of takes a lot of the stress off everybody's shoulders. And then as they're halfway passed out, Rika stands up and says she knows what the urban legend will be. At the bonfire, stand in your
crush.
Oh, this got chopped up. Yeah. Stand in your crush's shadow right where the heart would be. And then that's where you whisper, I love you, and then they'll be yours. And they go, I think it was a student council. They tell them about this, and Rika gives an invigorating speech, and it gets them pretty generally excited. And they're also told not to worry about the person who complained about the bonfire. So it seems Rika is going to retract her complaint. And it turns out the club also has to read a story out loud about the urban legend during the festival, kind of like a mini play, it turns out.
Yeah.
And at this point, they still haven't decided who's going to read it. And then we go to Izumi, who remembers the first time when he actually saw Kazusa as a girl. It's when they were little, and I guess Kazusa was always, girls tend to grow faster at first.
Yeah.
So she was a little bit stronger and bigger than him. And then one day, Izumi was able to throw a ball farther than her. And when he looks at her, he sees her blushing, and he's like, that's the first time I've ever noticed her as a girl before. And he goes and looks out his window, and since their house is right next to each other, he sees Kazusa staring at his window. And he's like, oh shit, awkward situation. So he then asks her about her trip, and then that makes her remember she bought him a keychain, and she also remembers she's the only one that knows he specifically likes older type trains, retro trains and stuff. So she bought him a little keychain with a little train car on it. Mm-hmm. And she throws it to him, and he catches it. And that's when she decides she wants to be the one to read, be one of the people reading in the play, specifically the one that says, I love you 3 freaking times or something.
And that's where that baseball metaphor came around, because she was able to throw it far enough to reach him. So it's signifying she may be a girl, but she's grown up now, she's capable, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just halfway waiting for him to fall out the window trying to get you.
That'd be pretty good.
This is going to end in a tragedy. And then Rika gets asked by Shun if she would like to walk around with him during the festival. Since she doesn't want the relationship to be public, she makes the excuse of being too busy for the club. This, of course, is just really, it's worrying and confusing Shun. He's wondering about the relationship since she's basically just hiding it from everybody. He's got to be asking himself, what are you embarrassed about? Are you embarrassed about me? What is this all about? Mm-hmm. He has his own little dilemma. And Rika doesn't realize she's kind of sabotaging the relationship by doing this.
Yeah.
And then they finally decide that Nina will play the male role. And they kind of dress her up as a guy. And it makes Momoko, she says a very interesting comment that Rika catches. She says, Nina is the prettiest girl she knows, and it's not fair that she can also look good dressed up as a guy.
Yeah,
and Rika's what?
So I have this weird idea that maybe Nina just likes Kazusa, and maybe that's why. Not that she likes Izumi, maybe she likes Kazusa.
And so you think she's jealous and taking it out by going after Izumi or something?
Yeah, maybe she's not understanding her own feelings, but that's what's really going on.
I think this could go in 3 different paths at this point with Nina.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like she really likes Izumi. She has these moments with him, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't know.
This is about all 5 of these girls trying to figure out what they do like and who they do like. So, yeah, it fits into the story perfectly.
One thing I'm sure of is that fucking Momoko is in love with Nina.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty damn straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this last bit got weird. Yeah. Nina meets up with her old acting coach and asks him to kiss her because he once said, if you have a problem, come to me and talk to me about it. And he does, and then she's like, I don't feel anything. And he asks if it's about the boy from the other day, which is Izumi. And Nina, which I didn't really notice, Nina confirms she has also, apparently she likes Izumi, so she says, but she won't act on it because her friend, who, the term she doesn't throw around lightly, also likes him. And then Saigusa basically encourages her to go after her feelings anyway, but he does it in like such a malicious way. It's like he wants to see this love triangle just fucking implode on itself or something.
Yeah, was he tell her like, you cannot become a boring woman or something, or girl or whatever?
Yeah.
He's just he disgusts me. I hate this guy so much. Ugh.
Yeah.
I hope he like gets his in the end of this show, because like I don't know, like him kissing Nina was just like, oh, I can't watch this shit. But at least she was like, I feel absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
and
God.
Fortunately it wasn't on the screen too, because I don't know if I could have watched that.
But even like the creepy way he like beckoned her to come closer, I was like, ugh, yuck. But yeah. So yeah, the show continues to be interesting and weird. I'm cheering for Momoko now. I hope she gets a good end, but we'll see.
She just, I don't know, she's not had any luck. All these other people, like, all these other girls have some luck of some kind. She just doesn't get any fucking luck. So, like, she deserves something.
She does.
She's also adorable and has ponytails. And every time I see her come on screen, I just want to yank her fucking ponytails.
You love this.
Someone who appreciates her should come along and be like, yes. Like,
In
I
that
don't
sense,
care who it is.
I'm so rooting for Momoko that I'm like, I just hope Nina is like, okay, I'm bi in the end. Just for Momoko's sake.
She has her little moment where she's like, I'm in love with Kazusa or whatever, and then they're like, well, that didn't work out, and then Momo's like, hey, but I'm available.
Next best thing right over here.
And then they can bang and they can date each other and it'll be awesome. That's what awesome. I hope happens.
Let's all pray for that.
Yeah, let's all pray for that.
All right, let's move on and talk about family with Demon Slayer. Episode 20, Pretend Family, actually. So, after slicing off Rui, the Spider Boy's head, Tanjiro collapses to the ground. As he kind of promised, he's like barely able to move.
I wouldn't call him Spider Boy. His brother was Spider Boy.
Oh,
almost in a literal sense.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Maybe Web Boy. I'll take Web Boy.
Web Boy, yeah. String, I don't get slicey string boy, whatever. Anyway, he's barely able to move.
What did you call it when you had the string in between your hands and you would do like the
Cat's
weaving
cradle,
stuff?
Like that stuff, like Cat's cradle.
Well, I remember the names for the stuff, but is that have a specific name when you would do that?
I probably has like a different name besides Cat's cradle, but I thought that's one name for it that I know, at least. I don't know. So yeah, okay. Tanjiro can't move because he switched between like the water breathing and his family's Kagura so fast, and he's just trying to crawl towards Nezuko, who fell out of the sky after the spider strings disappeared. But then like as he's like slowly crawling,
Nezuko.
As he's crawling, like he smells that same scent of ash as like the last time. Or sorry, he doesn't smell ash like the last time. He smells blood getting stronger, like demon blood. And of course, Rui's headless body like gets up and is like moving behind him. And so apparently Rui pulls one of those like shonen things, like I killed myself before you killed me, and like he cut off his own head with his threads before Tanjiro could chop it off. And I guess doing that allowed him to stay alive.
Yeah, because early you see him chop off his own sister's head and it doesn't.
Right, she could just put it back on and like run away. So he did the same thing basically. And so he's like talking to Tanjiro with his head like hanging upside down from some strings, some spider strings. And like Tanjiro tries to crawl away, but it's no use. He even trying to calm down and like use his breathing, he just can't even lift his arm. And luckily, he would have been totally dead because like Rui uses this like red basket string attack that's like about to slice him into popcorn chicken. But the Giyu guy, the other guy who uses water breathing, shows up and saves him just in time. And what?
It's not just saves him; he immediately kills Rui.
Well, yeah, he uses this fucking badass like 11th water breathing form, which Tanjiro didn't even know about. It's like called Dead Calm. And it like scattered, like Rui tries to attack him, right? And like it just scatters all of his threads away. And like when you see it like pictured in the anime, it's like just the water all around him is just completely still. And then he just sort of like moves towards Rui, and Rui blinks, and in that blink, like he moves so fast that just like he slices straight through him, and then like instantly takes him out.
Yeah, which also this like is another jump in power level. Like Rui was such a pain in the ass. He was so fucking strong, and then Giyu just turns him into like nothing. Like he's that much more powerful.
Yeah, Giyu is like super strong. Like both him and Butterfly Girl are really strong. Yeah.
Like I need a power level ranking because we have just been making leaps and bounds the last couple episodes.
I still feel like those two probably aren't as strong as like the big bad guy, like Muzan Kibutsuji, I would assume, but they're closer to that than anybody else that we've seen so far. So yeah, we cut to like the sister spider girl who is like running off still on Rui's orders from before. And she flashes back to like, she used to just be a demon girl and she was being chased through this forest by demon slayers and like luckily stumbled across Rui, who's like, will you do anything if I save you? Will you join my family? And she's like, yes, just please save me. And he like slaughters the demon slayers easily. So apparently because Rui is like one of those lower 5 members of like the Muzan Kibutsuji's favorites, he can like share his power with other demons. So like they have the demon girl like drink a drop of his blood in water, and she like turns into a spider demon, and like he's like, oh, I'm gonna do the finishing touches, and he like rips her face off. I guess the camera's like cutting away.
What was that? Like, what the fuck? Because then they like later on they talk about like, oh, it's hard not to revert, and I'm just thinking,
like
how
he changed her face somehow that like he likes it more when it looks spider-like. I guess I don't know.
Well, everybody's is like that white type of
aesthetic.
Yeah, aesthetic, I guess, so to say, like his.
With those like red
I think he
markings.
just wants it to make it look like they're all related to him.
Yeah, like
if
part
they
of
were
his little
actually related
family.
to him, what they would look like, which makes sense. But yeah, it's odd. I don't know what to think of that. Like, I don't know if he literally rips her face off or if it's.
It felt like at least like part of the top of her head, like before the camera cuts away, was like coming out, and I was like, oh boy, that's painful.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he marked her probably in some weird way, I guess. And yeah, like we also see like as part of this flashback, like the sister spiders like talking to like another like sister in Rui's pretend family, and we see Rui like taking his anger out on like the mother spider who like had reverted, like Kat was saying, and she was just like a little girl, and she's like, no, I'll be the mom you need, and like she reverts back to looking like an older woman. And then he like garrots her neck with like spider webs to like punish her. It's like pretty fucked up. Rui's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Well, but like he's also kind of a fucked up himself. Like it's
we
all
get to
cycle.
that.
True. Yeah. So yeah, like that other sister was proposing that like they run away because clearly Rui is like not good and is keeping them here like sort of against their will, even though he saved them. So they start running away, but like the newly turned like demon girl sister betrays this other girl to Rui, and he like strings her up like on that house, and just like she burns in effigy when the sunlight comes the next morning. So too bad for her.
Yeah, I mean that's fucked up.
Yeah,
let's be real.
Yeah,
that's the part that's really fucked up.
I think all of these parts are pretty
more
fucked
so
up.
more so than that than Rui's. Like, betraying someone like that is really fucked up.
Oh, the betrayal? Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know why she thought she could trust this girl, though. She just seemed to think that she was like a sister.
Well, because she's like innocent and was like, I'm new and I'm being abused. And I think it's really just about like, there's no love in that house. And if you feel like if there's some genuine love, like, I think you're just so desperate at that point, you go for it.
If I was the new girl, though, I wouldn't have trusted her, like, when she said, do you want to run away? Because I would have thought that, like, they would be testing me, maybe.
Yeah, it was a test.
Yeah. So it goes both ways. I don't know. But anyway, back in the present, the sister comes across this demon slayer, and she, like, wraps him up in this spider silk yarn ball, and then she fills it with this, like, solvent substance which she tells him is like going to dissolve all of his clothes and then dissolve him until he's just liquefied. And then she's going to feed on him later, basically.
At what point do you die if you're being dissolved?
I don't know.
I think you would go crazy from the pain first.
You'd probably black out from the pain, yeah.
Okay, because I this made me think about this a lot, and I actually looked up this too. Like, when would you die if you're being dissolved? And there's like nothing comes up, of course, because like that's insane thing to look up.
God damn it! I'm gonna look in the papers tomorrow and be like,
local Indiana girl arrested.
Indie victims, the bodies being dissolved in barrels. I'm like, God shit.
But no, like.
I don't know.
I guess you would pass out, but like, would you wake up several times?
Probably.
Like, how long would it take you?
I don't know. It's scary. I don't want to die that way.
Would you wake up though?
You would. I would say, since you're being eaten from the outside in, you would die from blood loss before anything else.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
I don't know. It's weird.
So luckily, though, the butterfly girl Shinobu shows up. Like, she just like suddenly like appears behind
best girl
sister.
She's awesome.
She is really great. And like the sister, like, well, she's like basically kind of just like acting all nice, but you can tell like she's a badass at the same time. And like the spider girl tries to like attack her, but she just like uses her butterfly cloak that she wears as if they were basically wings, because she just like floats around and like the sister can't hit her. And then she like pummels the spider girl with like kicks and pins her to the ground. And she's just like smiling the whole time. The sister's like begging for her life, saying that she's being forced to do this. And Shinobu kind of pretends like, oh, you're being forced to do this? Okay, I guess I'll let you go. But let me just ask you a couple questions. How many people have you killed? And she's like, 5, but, I was forced to do it. And Shinobu's like, yeah, I saw like 14 more of those cocoons just on the west side of the mountain with liquefied humans inside them. So I think you're bullshitting me a little here. And she's like, I'll make this up to you. I'm just going to give you the justice you deserve. I'm just going to, gouge out your eyeballs and then, cut out your intestines, just to punish you and get you justice for every one of those victims. And then you can be reborn again and we can be friends. So, yeah, she's a little, like, intense, Shinobu. So, yeah, once it becomes clear that the sister doesn't want to be friends, Shinobu, like, does this leaping attack with her sword, where she kind of like disappears for a second, and then this like storm of butterflies just floats like past the sister, like confusing her. And this one straggler butterfly like lands on her finger, and her finger starts bleeding. And before she knows it, she's just bleeding from everywhere. And like apparently Shinobu like poses. She calls like this the insect breathing butterfly dance Caprice edition or whatever. And the sister's like, oh, I still have a shot. I haven't been beheaded. And then she just starts to choke and like go purple in the face. And she sees like Shinobu's katana has like a hook at the end of it and like a notch cut into it. And Shinobu's like, some demon slayers, you use poison on their enemies. Even though I can't like behead people, I'm rather awesome, she says, which is pretty great. And so, yeah, Shinobu, like, she's done with this spider girl. She goes and cuts that demon slayer out of the ball of yarn and explains how she used wisteria poison. That's like the flowers we saw earlier in the anime that drive away demons. And the sister will now just like rot to death slowly. And she also kind of like in a moment of comedy, like admires this demon slayer's body because like his clothes have been melted off and he like covers himself. And so, yeah, at the very end, we see Rui's head, like, falling from his body from when Giyu cut it off. And he flashes back again, and we find out he decided to put together this pretend spider family because he has no memories from when he was human, and he was hoping that forming, like, similar, like, human-type bonds might, like, jog his memories and bring them back. So that's his whole reasoning for doing all this stuff, is trying to, like, remember himself.
So episode 21, that's the one that opens up with him remembering, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah,
that's
if
next
it wasn't
episode?
at the end of this one, it has to be the beginning of the next one. Excuse me.
I'm sure it is, because that's where they end off this week. Yeah. Yeah, like Leo said, fuck, Shinobu's so good, and like Saori Hayami's voicing her like so perfectly.
We talked about her last week. She has so many roles. She has like Kokoro's role from Darling in the Franxx.
Are you going to name off 14 more roles?
I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again.
God,
no, that was just the one that like I really noticed where she spoke very similar to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I really like when the Demon Slayers like do the backstories or like anything like that, because that's the part I like. I don't really like all the actiony stuff that you guys love. I know you.
Yeah, it's always good when there's good backstories. Like, that is key to any shonen anime, because like a lot of times they do backstory and it's just like, I don't really care. This one has pretty cool, interesting backstories for all.
Yeah, it's never boring when Demon Slayer does a
because sometimes it can feel like filler. God,
for sure,
filler.
You mean like in Doctor Stone? Yeah,
Doctor Stone. I was thinking Naruto specifically.
Yeah. So, oh man, we have a new anime to talk about.
Oh boy. Astra Lost in Space.
Okay. So I'm really excited to see how Leo like recaps this.
Okay. Yeah, no. So we decided, since Bcom and I both picked up new shows, we decided to do a small recap, and we basically just highlight how we got here. And I feel like Astra can basically be summed up in pretty much just purely character development and what we learned about everybody. It's basically about establishing backstories for everybody and kind of learning why somebody might want them killed.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just them running into trouble and working together to try to figure it out and how to solve the problem, whether it's something on the planet trying to kill them, or poison, or carnivorous mushrooms. Who knows?
Yep.
So first, we're going to start off with Yunoha. Her issue is that she's very down. She's very sad all the time. She's always like, sorry. But her issue is her mother was basically constantly telling her when she was growing up that she was useless and couldn't do anything, which explains her glum attitude. And it turns out her mother is also like an extremely famous singer.
Yeah.
And like they all kind of flip out when they find out who her mother is. Like, that's your mom? And I get slightly the vibe that maybe Yunoha's mother is slightly jealous of her natural ability to be able to sing.
Yeah.
Did you guys get that also? I kind of feel like that's her motive, maybe a little bit.
I think, that was part of it.
Or just resentful she even had a child or something like that.
There was very weird tension.
Know.
Yeah.
It's odd because like she's like intentionally telling her child not to sing.
Yeah, she's like even told the school
to
not give her like that lead role that she earned. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird, because she was like, you won't be able to handle it. Why are you doing this? Like, yeah. She's just a bitch. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Fuck her mother.
It feels like she's just fucked up herself somehow and is like just taking it out on her kid.
Yeah.
But that's like, that happens a lot. That's actually realistic.
So there's this one scene where like everybody's dying from poison from the plants, and they're like all laying in there and they're waiting for Kanata to get back with the vaccine to cure them. And she like ends up singing, and it's kind of what, in between life and death, it's kind of what kept them in life as they listen to her singing. And then just like afterwards, once they're all better, they like praise her for her voice, and she kind of like blushes, but it gives her a lot of confidence, and she realizes like all of them are her friends and she really likes them. And then she gets a new haircut. And then when she shows herself, all the boys are like, "Oh,
she's cute now. Oh, wow."
Yeah. So she's part of the show. That's kind of her. That's her whole thing. That's her whole turnaround.
I was annoyed because I thought she was the traitor early on, and then she got the cute haircut. I was like, okay, there's no way.
Yeah, but she still hasn't done a whole lot.
True, I guess that's true.
I could see any of these people still being the traitor. Like,
I have a note about that at the end. Like, everybody's done so much to help them survive at this point. You're just like, man, if somebody's the traitor, they are playing one hell of a long game. Like, their betrayal is going to come so out of nowhere, nobody's going to predict it. Yeah. So, let's talk about the parents real quick.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, they all get together and have a meeting about the search for their missing kids. A lot of them propose they abandon the search. Very, very interestingly, it's only Aries' mom and Charce's mom who act like they even give two shits about their kids disappearing.
Yeah, that was
Everybody
really
else
weird.
is like, they're fucking gone. We know we can't find them. Let's give up. And it's just like, what?
Like they all just want to move on, like it
Yeah,
throw it
like
under the
they-
rug
like-
or something.
Definitely feels like they're trying to get rid of their kids for one reason or another. And also, most of them seem to have a lot of wealth and could afford to pay for their kids to disappear.
That's a good observation. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so that's Aries and Charce's parents are the only ones who seem to give a shit at all. So, okay, let's talk about Olgar. This is the brooding dude who steals a gun out of a supply cabinet. Turns out his older brother became a journalist and started cracking down on politicians. And he looked greatly up to his older brother and wanted to become a journalist like him one day. He was also ostracized by his parents for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, one day, his brother gets involved with a certain politician, and he turns up dead.
Well, okay, you say involved, like he worked for him, like he was investigating.
No, he was
certain
investigating him.
Yeah.
Yes. A certain politician ends up dead one day. The cops rule is a suicide, but Olgar knows better because he's like, who buys a fucking present for your brother days before his birthday and then kills himself? And I was like, that's a fair point. Also, he definitely did not seem suicidal at all in any of that, any of the backstory.
Yeah.
But he's always been bitter about his brother's death, and he trained himself with airsoft guns so he could get his revenge on the politician one day. And this is shown in various scenes that he's actually a good shot with the gun. And then he eventually learns Luca is the politician's son and holds him at gunpoint, threatening to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when we go into Luca's backstory.
See, okay, this is the issue with this anime. It's just like backstory after, like, okay, you know how Demon Slayer does it well?
Yeah.
This show, it feels very like they're forcing it.
I don't
forcing it.
feel like that because we know nothing about them. So like, I'm actually like really wanting them to tell me something about each of these characters.
Knowing about them. It's just that
Why are they here?
It feels too
Who
forced.
potentially is
It
trying to
feels
get these
too,
kids
like,
killed?
And now we're gonna intentionally go into this person's backstory, and it doesn't feel like
I will say Olgar's bleeding into Luca's was done very well. That's probably the best one. Like
that was done well.
Flowed
That one
nicely.
didn't feel forced.
Yes.
But like Charce's, like who get into, like most of these felt very forced to me.
Well, yeah, Charce's is the episode we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Luca's backstory is complex. His father, the politician Marco Esposito, was having trouble having kids, and he needed an heir, so they adopted Luca from like a struggling artist friend and raised him. But then it turns out later on they went to a hospital and for like a checkup for whatever, they found out Luca was intersex.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Which is so fucking crazy because when I was waiting on you two to record and I'm sitting here in chat, I went to CNN and there was a story about an intersex person.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was like, I have never seen this before. So what intersex is basically means they're neither completely male or female. According to the CNN story, apparently they tend to be more female on the outside, but they have more internal components of a male. And that's actually kind of what Luca is. More feminine on the outside, but apparently more male on the inside.
Kind of like that athlete that was a female. Wasn't she a runner? And they kept going back and forth on whether she could
compete. Yeah.
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 She's intersex
So-
to one degree or another, right?
Mhm.
Right, What
And
athlete
they
am
were
I
talking about like,
It
oh,
feels
she has
weird
too much
to reference it and
testosterone,
then-
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, what athlete are we talking about? I'll look it up.
You try and I don't know the name, so you have to
I
look
can't
it
tell you the name either. It's been a minute. So they, because he's neither fully male or female, he's kind of slightly disowned, and they want, and the way this family works, they want a male heir. Eventually,
male heir,
Marco-
not hair.
heir.
You don't pronounce the H
Eventually has a son, and that pretty much gets Luca ignored, and the baby's made the heir instead. So killing Luca would not upset his father, and Olgar wouldn't be getting any revenge anyways on it.
Right.
And like I said, Lucas' body is mostly female, although he himself registers and identifies as male. And the crew does go, and they go back to just treating him as a male and don't see it any other way. But Olgar also seems to be slightly attracted to him.
Yeah, I think that might end up being a coupling. I like the way they handled it. They handled it well. The athlete's name is Caster Semenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just a couple other loose ends to tie up. Ares also has the hots for Kanata, and how do you want to say her fucking name?
I'd say Kitari, but who knows?
Okay, Kitari has totally noticed this and constantly eggs Ares on, which is kind of funny. And so far, everybody has contributed to their survival in some way, and that makes it really hard to wonder if somebody's actually there to make sure they all die. Like, just going by facts alone, Phoenicia is really the only one who hasn't done much. She does find the ship for the next episode, though, so, like, that's a pretty big contribution. Like, unless she is touting the brain power from the Promised Neverland, I don't see how she could be the killer.
Yeah. It would be weird if she was the bad guy. Like, that would be kind of... I would be disappointed if that was the case, because that's just dumb. Like, the little girl...
So, like, at this moment, if you ask me who I think the killer is, I've got no fucking idea.
Yeah. It's changed a lot for me since, like, the beginning. But I think at this point, I was like, well, it's not Yunhua anymore. I think at this point, I was thinking it's Kanata, because that would just be, like, the craziest one.
I had the same thought too. Like, that's like, if we want to go full on crazy, it'd be Kanata, but he's also being the commander. He's also done the most saving. But like I said, if he's going for the long run, this dude's fucking.
What if it's Ares?
That would be interesting too. I was definitely thinking one of them at this point in the show. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Or it's like not any of them at all. But I think maybe it's Ares.
I feel more like it's not. Yeah, but Ares actually got ruled out very first early on because she was with Kanata the whole time when the communication console got sabotaged.
I don't think you can rule anyone out. Like, they could always come up with some excuse for why that works.
I suppose, yeah. You can bullshit your way around a lot of stuff. All right, so tell us about the actual episode 7, Past.
Episode 7, Past, yes. Ares suddenly, pay attention to her name. Ares suddenly questions, which is funny. I didn't notice it until I rewatched it just to make sure, because some idiot on this podcast heavily hinted they were going to pick up this goddamn show. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to pick up Vinland Saga. And then they picked up Vinland Saga, and
I'm damn well that this is a better 9, this is like, a better assignment for you, Leo.
God damn it!
Listen, Vinland Saga is complicated, and you would have not done well explaining.
I don't know if that's a good argument, Kat, because this show is really complicated too.
Okay, this show is complicated too, but I'm less upset when things are skipped in this than I would be with Vinland Saga.
I've also read part of Vinland Saga, so like I have inside information. So
I'm just saying that like Bcom is this weird detail freak who like can't stand to not like list everything. So I know that he's gonna say shit.
Yeah,
like
if any of our listeners could see our Google Docs, you'd be like, what the fuck is up with Bcom?
He's a madman.
A monstrous Google Doc for every single one of these episodes.
Leo, easy way to solve this problem. You could have picked Vinland Saga over Bem at the beginning of the season.
I know, the fucking Bem.
But I was hoping Kat would pick up Vinland Saga.
That's
you wanted
true.
me to take the bullet again. You always want me to take
That's
the
why it rotates,
bullet.
so we can play this
everybody
fun-ass game. So, anyways, we're running along. Yeah. Ares suddenly questions Charles on why she never saw him in class, because apparently he joined also and he had this biology class, but she's like, I know everybody's faces in there. I never saw yours in there. And it immediately makes everybody suspicious. And Charles is also being very vague about everything. So they're like, what the fuck, dude? And so it's also extra suspicious that he transferred in just right before the camp, which would easily set him up as the killer in this. But it's also weird because it's just like Ares. She just transferred in just before also. But they girl him a little bit. And after Kanata eventually threatens, he's like, I'm going to have to lock you up unless you give us answers, dude. He finally tells everybody who he is. It turns out he is from a noble family in the Vixia royal quarter. Which seems like a very big deal from everybody's reactions.
Yeah.
It turns out, after the World War in 1963, all governments were reworked, and Vixia was the only one allowed to be ruled by royal nobility. Vixia also intentionally lacks a lot of science and resembles kind of like the villages from Attack on Titan. Would be my next best comparison, just like kind of back in that area. There's no electronics, just, fruit stands, vegetable stands, like weird, there's huts, all that stuff like that. There's also an inner part of this like colony that's walled off, and only nobles and royalty live there. And it's completely off limits to tourists and regular villagers. Also, this place gets a lot of tourism because, it's like so ancient like, which I can see the appeal of that. That'd be cool to kind of go see that. But a young Charles manages to get his friend Sarah,
yeah.
And oddly spelled backwards is Aries.
Oh, that's interesting. Also interesting how she looks exactly the same as the girl in this flashback.
Exactly the same like her. Yeah.
I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, so this is just like a little on the nose, I feel like.
A bit.
He manages to get her into the noble quarter through a crack he found in the wall. Eventually, Sarah runs into a guard on accident, and a device goes off saying she's a commoner. She struggles with the guard and accidentally gets pushed over a bridge, and she falls into a coma. Charles, I guess, eventually always visits her every day, even though his father's like angry with him visiting a commoner. And then after 4 years, Sarah's family leaves Vixia and tells nobody where they went. This is where Ares also looks like Sarah, and their names are each other's backwards. Mm-hmm. It's just like, really? You couldn't hide that a little bit better? This is when they make it to planet Icarus. And they send to find it mostly inhabited by carnivorous plants. Planet Icarus is also a planet that is in perfect rotation with its sun, so when it orbits, one side is always on the light and the other side is always on the dark. And that just leaves a very small strip in between where life can actually exist. They end up barely flying through a field of, I would basically say, floating jellyfish, but they're plants. And then at one point they get snagged with this giant other plant, and they manage to escape it by like rotating the ship and getting away, but the ship suffers damages, and further gets damaged when Zach's trying to land it, but because of loss of control on like the left-hand side, they end up scraping like a cliff. Zach informs everybody that the ship is so damaged that they can't get to space now, but they can fly around a little from spot to spot. He also says, due to no parts and no tools and like no docking bay, they cannot fix the ship. They are all going to have to accept that we're going to live on this planet now, and that's how things are. Q-Terra is taking the news like not very
she's
well
like
at all.
losing her shit.
Oh, she's losing her shit. And like after a while, Zach's like, hey, you just need to shape up. But we also have one cryopod on the ship, and we can put you in there and you can sleep and you can wait for the slim chance that somebody eventually finds up and saves you, whether that's 10 years, 100 years, 500 years from now. But she rejects the idea and says, that would just be like dying alone. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, during that conversation, Kanata gets a call from the group that's out looking for the food. And it turns out they have found another ship that's very similar to the Astra. It's basically just a 10-year-old older model for the most part. Mm-hmm. And Kanata, Zach, and Olga all go inside to take a look. They find the ship pretty much beat up. Basically, what's wrong with different segments of their ship that's wrong are good on their ship, and vice versa.
So they can swap them out and get back going.
Yeah, that's interesting. Next episode, we'll talk about that later. They eventually go to a computer. The ship still has power. They find a note that says, help me. They're like, why would they say help me if they didn't get saved? And they rush to the cryopod and find a woman inside, and they decide to wake her.
And she like opens her eyes and stuff. Yeah. I feel like for somebody coming out of cryo sleep, she woke up very fast, in my opinion. Like, it seems like that should take longer. I don't know.
Well, considering it's not a real fucking thing yet, who knows what the fucking time is?
That's a fair point.
Yeah. I don't know what to think of this show. It feels all very contrived, but I do enjoy watching it. So I'd say it has a lot of plot holes, but it's good overall.
One thing that amuses me about this show, so they showed up at planet Icarus today, and all of the planets they've gone to are anagrams for the meaning of the planet or the things on the planet. So like Icarus is an anagram of crisis, and they were in a crisis situation because their ship was dead.
Okay.
The first planet they went to was called Mikpa, which is an anagram for camp because they were going to space camp there. They went to planet Shumur, which is an anagram of mushroom. It was the mushroom planet. And then Arispade or Arispide or whatever was the paradise world. That was just basically paradise. So that's kind of cute, I guess. I don't know. I like that.
It is. It's cute.
But yeah, like the bigger thing is like we found out about Sarah, and like Leo and I were going like, oh, that's very curious. So like if Sarah is related to Ares somehow, Char's probably knows that. And like, so he hasn't told the complete truth.
There was the scene where he's sitting on his bed and he has a picture of her and he's looking at it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, who knows?
He knows more than he's letting on. So that's interesting. So
with that being said, I could say that maybe Charles was initially supposed to be the one to make sure everybody dies. But then once again, finding Sarah, he has
maybe
doubts.
He doesn't want to kill her because he knows her.
He doesn't want to kill himself also now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We should take a break and come back after these messages from our fellow podcasters.
Right.
We'll be back.
Hi, I'm JD, your host of the Red Leaf Retrocast, your best location to learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. Our podcast has 4 shows for you to listen to between retro gaming, modern gaming, anime, and even wrestling. The Retro Gaming Cast covers discussion topics, and each episode we discuss retro games picked based on a decided theme for that episode, ranging from space all the way to console specials like the old handheld Game Boy. Our Modern Gaming Cast is monthly and covers video game titles that were released in that previous month. Each anime cast, we focus to review a retro anime each and every episode, like the original Mobile Suit Gundam to the racing hit Initial D. But that's not all. We also keep up with the seasonal shows, by occasionally doing impressions and reviews as well. Finally, our last show is about wrestling, where we keep the rising indie scene up to date, while also covering shows from the bigger promotions like Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WWE, so we cover it all. We also cover a retired wrestler every episode in what we call the Wrestler Spotlight, and are currently on a quest covering old WCW Thunder episodes from the late 90s, every cast. So if any one of those casts sound like something you'd like to check out, that's the Red Leaf Retrocast, Gaming, Anime, and Wrestling, found at iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and all your favorite podcasting sites. Also, you can learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. We can't wait to see you soon.
Hey, dude, you into anime, manga, and all that radical stuff?
Oh, yeah, man. It's tubular.
Then you should totally check out
This transmission has been hacked. If you want discussions, debate, reviews, and all in between, you must listen to the Anime Radicals Network at www.animeradicals.com. There's timely reviews, revolutions, mecha, and much more. Find it on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all podcast catchers. The Anime Radicals Network.
The revolution will be simulcast.
And after breaking out of our stoning cases, we're going to talk about some Dr. Stone.
Yes.
I feel so much healthier now. My skin is shiny.
Yeah, those fractures in your arms are now fixed and all that fun stuff.
If you think about it, it kind of sounds like when you have like a clay mask or something.
Yeah,
like
for
you
sure.
take it off and you feel like refreshed and not dead anymore. Because I don't know if you guys have ever put on a clay mask.
Sorry,
I
I
don't
don't think
it
about
once.
clay masks.
but like it feels like you're slowly having your soul sucked out, like because it dries and it like pulls at your skin and it's stiff and you're like and then you finally take it off and you're like I'm free. So maybe it's similar.
Open up those pores.
Episode 7, where 2 million years have gone. Kohaku says she will team up with Senku and help him defeat this Tsukasa guy. She's still cautious with him, though, and sleeps with, like, her knives in her hand, which is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
And she also offers to take Senku to her village and recruit more people, specifically one guy she is thinking of specifically.
By the way, Kohaku would get along well with Thorfinn from Vinland Saga with their knives.
Yeah.
Same style.
Yeah. But on the way to the village, Kohaku fills up a 50-liter jar with water from a hot spring for her sickly sister. She also hasn't fully recovered from yesterday, so Senku offers to carry the jug and, of course, spills it because we know he's kind of weak physically.
Yeah.
And 50 liters of water would be... Whew.
I calculated it. I was like, this is really heavy. It's apparently 110 pounds, just the water. And then she's got this massive jar. And I'm like, this girl is really strong. Her back should be screwed up.
So let's say this is a clay jar. Let's be nice and just say it's another 20 pounds.
Sure. It's like 130 pounds you're carrying just like in your arms in front of you. That's very heavy.
Yeah, doable, but you're going to wear quickly.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how she's fucking doing that.
Yeah, so Senko ends up making she has ungodly strength, just like the Tsukasa guy. Senku ends up making like a cart with the using the pulleys from the other thing the other day as the wheels, and they use it to get like quickly to the village, but he like eventually ends up crashing it anyways.
Well, because I mean, I guess the whole reason she hasn't done that, because making a cart is not that complicated, is because the ground is too bumpy. Like,
well, they haven't really invented the wheel yet. It doesn't look like so.
I mean, a wheel is not that hard to think of.
You
though.
think that because you already know it.
I don't know. I think that's not that hard. Like, there's some things that I will concede to you are not, like, easy to think of, but, like, a wheel is not that hard.
After arriving at the village, Senku's first thoughts of where these people came from, they show no sign of having knowledge from his time, and guesses that they must have come from, like, previous generations, like somebody broke out their stone, and they passed away now, and this is, like, the third or fourth generation, so they don't have that knowledge anymore. They've only grown up here. He ends up getting attacked at the gate because the village has a rule that no outsiders can come into the village. Kohaku defends him and maliciously challenges the other two guards to a fight, and they're kind of terrified of her, like, shit. Senku ends up defusing the situation by pulling a bar of soap from his pocket and uses the spring water to, like, blow bubbles, which, like, blows the other three's minds because they've, like, never seen sorcery like this before. Like, one dude keeps poking him with his spear. The other one's just, like, staring on in fascination.
The guy who's, like, poking him is like, they're just more of them. Oh, no. It's hilarious.
I also end up meeting a guy named Chrome that says he is insanely smart and the greatest sorcerer. And this is who...
I like this guy.
Yeah. This is who Kohaku wanted him to meet. Chrome challenges Senku to a battle because he thinks he is the greatest sorcerer. Senku is, just completely unamused by this because he knows Chrome he has no chance. He does not have the knowledge that he has. And then, like, Chrome begins by throwing, like, different elements into a fire and making it change color. And, like, the village people or the guards are, like, completely fascinated by it. But Senku's like, actually, these are the exact minerals you're using to make these fires. So, like, I know what you're doing. And Chrome's just like, shit. Chrome's next step is to use a sulfur ball he made and shock one of the guards, and Senku just laughs and shows him, he's like, if you actually use leather to rub it, it's way more intense, and just, like, shocks the shit out of him.
So much static electricity, yeah.
So much more. But Senku still commends him for figuring all this out on his own. And Chrome challenges Senku to one last battle, a battle of arithmetic. Even the show, like, acknowledges that Senku is just going to slaughter him and just kind of skips the battle entirely.
Yeah, I liked that. I was like, well, I'm glad we didn't have to watch that shit.
Yeah, because we knew the outcome, like 113%. It's just fucking crazy. But by winning, Senku successfully recruited Chrome into his kingdom of science. In Chrome's hut, they find out that Chrome has gathered a ton of material, like a bunch of, like, copper, sulfur, all kinds of stuff. It's basically the cast of the Land of the Lustrous, if you want to be.
And I thought the same
honest.
thing when they were like, "Oh, you have Cinnabar too," and I was like, "Oh, Cinnabar, she's here."
Yeah.
Or he,
and, like, at one point,
whatever.
Yeah, at one point they have, like, malachite, and there's like, "Oh, if you're doing this, you can make lead." I'm like, those are poisons, right? Mm-hmm. So Senku uses some of the materials to give one of the guards spears, like, a gold plating. It's a Kinro. That's who he gives it to. And, like, Kinro acts like he doesn't care, but secretly he does. And Senku's like, all right, just one more push, and I'll win him over and get into the village. And then Kohaku visits her sister, who also turns out to be the priestess of the village. she's actually so perceptive. She can tell that like her hair has been rebraided differently, and that she must have been in trouble because she got into like, I guess, so much trouble that her hair came undone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. And then Senku decides to tell Chrome about the time period he is from and all the scientific advances they had made. He also tells him about the petrification incident, which is Chrome takes pretty kind of, I don't know, personally cries a little bit about that. And as the show ends, Senku says they will be making an antibiotic and save Kohaku's sister, Ruri, in the end, who Chrome seems to have a little bit of a crush on, to be honest.
Chrome is like a cool sidekick for Senku. Like, I like how Senku tells him, like, you're like one of those guys who spends all of his time collecting materials in Monster Hunter, aren't you? Which is a good little nod to Monster Hunter, and it's, like, so true. Like, he just goes around, like, scavenging everything. He can't stop himself. Yeah, the one thing I was, like, a little bit, like, about in this episode was when, in the beginning, when Kohaku's, like, carrying that big jug that's so heavy, Senku, like, calls her a gorilla, and she gets really offended, and I'm like, how does she know what a gorilla is? Like, it's possible that word got passed down by the people who woke up. Yeah.
He also calls her a lioness, and we literally saw fucking lions earlier.
That's true, but are there gorillas in Japan? I guess maybe if they broke out of the zoo, but then would they know to call them gorillas? I guess the people who woke up would, but...
Yeah, the people who woke up would, but that also explains why Chrome wouldn't know, like, what... the materials he's been collecting is called.
True, yeah.
Because that would be something like more vague and like something like the original people would probably not have really ever mentioned.
Yeah, you would need to have like somebody who did really well in chemistry class or like a mineral or earth science specialist or something have to wake up to know what all those things were. But yeah, anyway, I was just like, how does she know what a gorilla is? That's weird. But anyway, it was a funny joke.
It was interesting. It was a better episode. I will say that.
Yeah, I had fun with it. Chrome was good. I like him a lot.
Because for a while I was like, oh, the show seems to be not doing much anymore. But it's getting better again.
And it's setting up for this big conflict, so yeah.
Yeah, especially after this episode, I want to know what happened to the other two. What's going on in that camp? How did there... Yeah, like what's going on over there?
Yeah, that is true. Because
really
like there could be so many different things going on, and we just have no idea. Yep. Like, yeah. But
speaking of, I have no idea what's going on. Given.
Yes. Okay. But I don't know. This is a pretty good episode. Okay.
I just want to put a disclaimer out there for myself. I have no idea what's going on with this show. I literally, every time I start an episode, I just completely zone out. And then the next thing I know, I'm halfway through the credits. Like, I legit lose 24 minutes of my time. And, like, I'm not getting on my phone. I'm not doing anything. I may be glancing at one of my other two screens. I literally start the episode and, like, I'm kind of watching it. And then, like, I just suddenly look up and there's music playing and it's the ED. And I'm like, what?
I swear to God, you just have no culture in your body.
Leo, not a man of culture.
No.
Oh my God. Well, tell us about this tumbling dice episode, Kat.
Okay, hold on. I just fucked up my screw on my mic. God damn it. Go back in.
That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
You would say that. I don't. No culture.
Zero
what did
culture.
I just say? God damn. Proving me right. Okay.
Oh, I did like this episode too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So episode 7, Tumbling Dice. So it starts out with Akihiko, and he has this sort of like thought in his head that he used to think that love would be like soft and sweet and kind. And then when he finally like finds out about love, and it's delivered in like a monotone, like he's writing this in a book or something. It's very poetic. And he finds out that like really that's an illusion and that love is very violent, like having your flesh ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very artsy, and I liked it. It struck a good chord. And you see Akihiko with this dark-haired guy, so you find out right away like his first love was a guy, which is interesting. And then they have like a switch. and you see Ritsuka has started kind of attacking Sato a lot. Like in the beginning, he was attacking him for not practicing enough because he hasn't had he's still not great. And then Haruki tells Ritsuka that he's been acting weird and like he needs to just chill and lay off Sato. And of course, Akihiko's like, let's all just take a break. And Akihiko actually thinks the band might break up if this doesn't stop.
I can understand Ritsuka's frustration though, because he's going off on Mafuyu for like potentially not practicing because he's not improving, and I understand that he's obviously also jealous that Mafuyu isn't over his like ex who he just found out about, and probably part of this frustration is about that. But also Mafuyu just like does not communicate well, and that obviously is going to get frustrating. Like when you can't communicate with this person.
I also think it's unfair because like I guess he doesn't understand it yet. But Ritsuka is caught between this dilemma of do I write this song or do I practice? And he doesn't have time for both.
Or Mafuyu is caught in this dilemma. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, Sato is. So that's really what's going on here. I don't know. And I really, what's happening is, Ritsuka just feels weird about knowing that Sato is in love with someone else.
Yeah.
And he feels jealous. But yeah, Akihiko attempts to talk to Ritsuka about this, and he's like, hey, something going on between you and Sato, and Ritsuka just blushes, and of course, Akihiko's like, you've already fucked him? Because he thinks the fact that he's reacting that way, like, means it's much farther along than he thought, and he basically tells Ritsuka, like, your face says, like, I'm in love with Sato. And I give this show a lot of credit, because, like, they're getting somewhere with a lot of yaoi. It like even the first season, it ends with nothing happening, and like no one except the two characters who are involved ever really acknowledges that there's something going on in a meaningful way. And this show just does not play around with that, which is really good.
That's why it's good to have like older, wiser characters in your like yuri or yaoi anime. Like in Bloom Into You, when they had like the older woman who like worked at the cafe who could like easily tell what was going on with these high school girls, even though they couldn't like say it themselves or see it themselves. So it's the same thing with Akihiko and Haruki, who are older than the others. They're in college or in grad school, and they know what's going on, like, and they can kind of guide them, which they start doing, which is nice.
It is nice. So yeah, Akihiko admits that he's been with guys too, which, I mean, that's huge, especially in Japan. Like, people just don't admit that shit. People just don't. And then when Ritsuka asks, like, is something wrong with me? He's like, no, nothing's wrong with me, so nothing's wrong with you. And Akihiko points out that Sato is writing this song because Ritsuka asked him to, and Ritsuka owes it to Sato to be a bit more supportive. Then Ritsuka has, like, later on, there's like another scene where Ritsuka has that girl apologize to him. Like, she comes up and is like, I'm sorry that I was being a bitch and told you about these rumors. And you see that he's a pretty forgiving guy, because he's pretty he's like, I forgive you, it was petty, but like, life is life.
Yeah.
And Sato watches this from the window, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of feelings about it. So, like, I don't know. Really, Sato is not feeling a lot of stuff towards Ritsuka yet. There's a scene where they're practicing again, and then after the practice session, Sato falls asleep. And Ritsuka kind of sits next to him and sees that his fingers are all calloused. So, like, he has been practicing. And Sato wakes up, and Ritsuka thinks that he is scared of the song that Sato is going to end up coming up with. So,
yeah, he doesn't want him singing about a song about how he like is in love with this other guy. Like, he's terrified of that.
I mean, I get that. It'd be hard to hear, but and then I don't know. There's a lot of Akihiko just thinking about his past. That was the most fascinating part of this episode. I thought was Akihiko.
Yeah. I love Akihiko. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it goes back into his backstory now. And Akihiko's just thinking about how violent love is and how Ritsuka's love has the potential to explode the band. And he's just thinking about his love and how it's similar. I think he's thinking of how it's similar to what Ritsuka is going through, and how basically it exploded his life so it could explode Ritsuka's life and by extension the band. And we find out that Akihiko loved this guy called Murata, who was that guy that we saw in the opening. And Murata was this violin star back when Akihiko was playing the violin and was competing. And they became friends, and Akihiko, who's just like blown away by Murata's talent, gives up violin because of it. Because he's like, I can't compete with this guy.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing. Like that, when you're in classical or something, like that's your life. So like it's basically him just completely changing the course of his life forever. And Akihiko comments that it's not that Murata was detached from reality. He had emotions like everyone else, but both the size of his heart and his emotions were far more overwhelming than most. The whole way that this section is written is just so
poetic
and beautifully done.
Yeah. Like there's a line I wrote down later that I'll say that like is my favorite line in this episode. I was just like, damn, that was well written.
As Leo laughs like an asshole. But like, no, seriously, I think this is why it's so popular.
About having her bare ass on the ground was better.
But I think this is why this show is so popular, because it actually is a well done show. It's a little slow paced, but it's well done.
It's well done, and it's getting better with each episode, I would say.
Yes, and that's better than it getting worse towards the end.
True.
We've seen a lot before. But yeah, so Murata's kind of this guy that's got a lot of depth to him, a lot of under the surface, but he keeps a lot buried. And there's just so much tension in this relationship between Akihiko and Murata that you see. And it shows... and it has this modern day scene of Akihiko at home and Murata coming in like it's his home, and at first you don't understand what's going on, and then you finally figure out like, oh, where Akihiko has been living throughout this whole show is Murata's home. Akihiko is living in Murata's home. It's not Akihiko's home at all,
right? Which
was really surprising to me. But yeah, Murata comes home from the show and it has this like comment, like, because Aki's like, you're home early, and he's like, he was waiting to pick me up, so I kind of wonder who he is. I guess we'll find out later. But that's an interesting dynamic that he's living with this other man, but like it doesn't seem like they're together anymore. It seems like they're exes, but they're still living together. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
And Murata like jokingly like refers to him as like slave, like as if like he just like has that like power dynamic with him. He's
living rent free in his house. I guess that's probably part of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, I'm just fascinated by that, and I want to know more. I don't know. And then later in the episode, Sato and Ritsuka practice together again. And Ritsuka tells him he needs to learn to play without looking at his hands. It's all very cute. Time goes by fast in this episode. They do a lot of skips. Akihiko comments a week before the live that they should stop practicing at this point because Sato has made it to like a decent point. And I think Akihiko just thinks that Sato probably can't get the lyrics done and practice too. And like he needs to focus on the one that isn't decent, you know? And Akihiko takes Sato out on his bike and like wants to talk to him kind of in this like, hey, if you don't settle things with your past, you won't be able to write the song, and is very confronting to him. I thought it was interesting that they paired them up together, Akihiko and Sato.
Yeah.
And then he had
Haruki take care of Ritsuka.
Yeah, take care of Ritsuka, because like it doesn't seem like they go together as well. I think they maybe just thought they need to shake it up. So he basically tells Haruki, like, you take Ritsuka, talk some shit to him. And of course, he's like, no, why'd you stick me with him? But he does it anyway.
Yeah.
And he basically has to tell Ritsuka, like, you're falling behind. You're not focusing on your own, like, abilities in this band, and you're not doing well, and you're gonna have to work on it. And like you can tell that this really floors Ritsuka because he has not even been in a space to think about working, like developing his musical talent with everything with Sato. So that's interesting. It's another thing to throw into this whole mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mostly this was like the Akihiko episode, which I appreciated. Like, as I've said previously, like, I love Haruki and Akihiko like more than the main duo. And they continue to just like impress me with like how interesting they are and their backstories. Yeah, like the line I was talking about before is like when Akihiko goes to like hug Murata, like basically the first time he's letting him know like I like you as more than a friend back when they're like playing violin and everything. And he says to himself, like, because like Murata like hugs him back, like he embraces the hug, and he's like, when his hands touched my skin through my clothes, there was so much tension. It was like I'd been pierced by needles. I wanted to rip all of these needles out, strip him naked, and sully that sound. Meaning like the sound of his like violin playing, like sully that. Like, you know, when you have something so pure that you just want to like dirty it a little bit, like that's a desire that a lot of people have. I think Kat knows that desire, probably.
Okay, I feel like that was unfair.
You've said
accusation,
that before. That's why I'm saying.
But I get it. But yeah, no, yeah. It's very poetic, and I can see why it jumped up so high in the rankings later on.
Sure.
Based on what we've seen. So.
Yeah, and we're very clearly building like. Sato is like keeping all of those lyrics so close to his chest, like obviously they're going to come out like in the performance itself, and it's going to be a big emotional moment. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
But we have another brand new anime to talk about. One we maybe should have covered, called Vinland Saga.
Yay! Well,
Yay.
what about that Given show? Are we going to do that one too?
Oh, did you just zone out, Leo? Did you zone out for a little bit there?
You're such a bastard.
Whoa!
We just did the Given review. Oh yeah, you didn't say anything that whole time. That's true.
It was just 8:20. It's now 8:40. What the fuck just happened?
Did you like write down the time we started the? That'd be so funny if you did. Anyway, okay. How did we get to episode 7 of Vinland Saga? Before reviewing this episode, like I went back and watched like episodes like 4 through 6 because those are the ones that we didn't talk about in our preview. And so we had left off with episode 3 with like Tors and Askeladd about to fight a duel, and Tors won that duel. It was a pretty badass duel between him and Askeladd, by the way. Like, it was a good fight. Askeladd's really sneaky.
Yes. Very, very good.
But Askeladd is not honorable, and he does not respect the rules of this duel. And, like, one of his men jumps, like, over to the boat that they were on and threatened Thorfinn's life. And Tors is like, I can't believe
Bjorn.
this. Oh, Bjorn. Yeah. And so, like, Tors, like, threw down his sword, and Askeladd was like, I'm going to have you, like, skewered with a volley of arrows. And, like, even though he's hit with, like, so many arrows, Tors is still, like, alive and able to say, like, go and let Thorfinn go, like, at least be that honorable, so they do.
I mean, with that muscle mass, I mean, none of those arrows can dig deep enough, and, like, it's going to take a hot minute before he bleeds out.
Yeah. So, obviously, Thorfinn is just fucking overcome with rage, and he wants revenge, but he's still a little kid. But he ends up like tagging along behind Askeladd's men because he stays on like his father's ship, which they had to like leave behind.
I don't understand why he stayed with them instead of just going off on his. Like, I understand he wants revenge.
Yeah,
Jesus, he's a kid. Like,
it is weird that like the other like Icelandic guys like didn't just like take him with them.
Yeah. I was like, what happened? What?
But maybe he like disappeared under deck and they just couldn't find him and they just had to get out of there.
I think he snuck on. Is kind of how it went.
Yeah,
they were just like,
seems like he snuck away. Yeah. So anyway, like Askeladd, like Thorfinn declares like, I'm gonna kill you, Askeladd, like no matter what it takes, like screams at him, and Askeladd's like, whatever, leave him alone. And so they land in northern England, and Askeladd's pirates like rape and pillage the local village, quite literally. Thorfinn finds Askeladd asleep that night, and he has like a sword that he's holding over his head, but he can't bring himself to kill him because it would be so dishonorable. And so he challenges him to like a duel the next day, and Askeladd just like completely embarrasses him, like he's no like
well,
obstacle.
It's also kind of cool how Askeladd was awake the entire time and he knew Thorfinn was there.
Yeah, he totally knew. He probably would have been able to protect himself, but he didn't need to. Like Leif Erikson returned home to tell Helga and Ylva that Tors has died. And Ylva was like kind of nonplussed at first, like she was acting very tough, but like when she finally stopped doing chores and slowed down that night, like her mom told her to like stop, it's okay. Like she started like breaking down and crying, which was pretty emotional. Meanwhile, Thorfinn is just like starving because he can't like feed himself, and he's alone in England, and he has to sort of like find a way to fend for himself. He like ends up killing a wolf with his short sword, and he then trains at like wielding and throwing that thing around until he becomes capable. He challenges Askeladd to another duel when he feels confident, and then he just mostly gets his ass kicked again, but he almost catches Askeladd off guard when he's like down on the ground and like throws the like sword at him, but Askeladd's too good for that. He knocks it away. And Askeladd's like, okay, if you ever want to challenge me to duel again, you need to achieve something great on the battlefield, and then a duel will be your reward. So as the Vikings journey further towards the center of England, Askeladd is trying to position himself to benefit from this inevitable invasion of England by the King of Denmark, which has been coming for quite some time now. So he's trying to like maneuver himself into a good position for that. They come under attack by English forces, and Askeladd saves Thorfinn from like nearly being killed. And like very soon after that, Thorfinn kills his first man by stabbing him in the stomach with the short sword. And he like screams into the night sky because like he's killed someone and like he's not the same anymore, basically.
Yeah, that he's really young to be killing people too.
Yeah, he is really young. And then like once he has a taste for killing people, though, he just kills a lot of people because he's trying to do anything he can to do something great on the battlefield. And then there's like a montage time skip as he slowly becomes trusted among Askeladd's pirates as like a scout. And somewhere along the line, he takes another short sword off of an Englishman, and so he can now dual wield like Kirito from Sword Art Online.
Oh, don't tarnish this show. Shut up.
Do it. Whenever there's dual wielding is tarnished by Sword Art Online. It has to be.
Yeah.
So at one point, an injured Thorfinn is taken in by an English mother and daughter. And we learn from the mother that the Danes have like every right to be angry with the English king. Because apparently like two generations ago, the Danes had like a friendly relationship with the English, and they like settled England a little bit, and they were friendly. But this new king has apparently like instituted a policy without warning of just slaughtering all of the Danish settlers in England. So there's a reason why the King of Denmark like might want to go to war over that. So yeah, Thorfinn tries to warn these two who took him in and were nice to him, like the mother and daughter. But they don't understand him, like when he says to run away because he doesn't speak English. And he signals Askeladd's men to attack the village, and like the mother just like stands there crying when she sees like Thorfinn has murdered like several English soldiers, and she had been nice to him and like combed like the fleas out of his hair, and she just realizes like she's kind of been nice to this monster. And also,
well, I think she's sad for her. I don't think it's that she realizes he's this monster. It's that she's sad that like this has been done to him.
Yep.
Also that, yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Kat. Yeah, she feels sad that he has been put in this situation and all that.
And yeah,
like that.
Thorfinn looking back at her face is like confronting what he has become also, and sees that face of those tears, and he realizes like he's gone pretty far down this road. So that's where we get up to episode 7. So right at the beginning of episode 7, there is like a 4-year time skip even further into the future. It's now like 1012 AD. And the King of Denmark is telling like his like advisor or something that the Danish troops, I think I know, actually, do I know this guy's name? Floki. He's telling Floki.
Yeah, we know his name.
Yeah.
That
the Danish troops need to stand down for the winter because they get tired if they're marching in the winter, and they'll rest up for a major offensive the following summer against England. And so Askeladd's men get word of this, and they decide, all right, we're leaving. We're going to follow the birds away from England to wherever there's food because we're hungry. This ends up being modern-day France, I assume, because they say they're in the Frankish like empire, but they're along the Loire River, which is in France, so it's definitely France.
I know, because in the next episode, I know they're getting close to London.
Yeah, so they must have come back. I mean, if they're on the Loire River, they were definitely in France, though, because that's a river in France. So they go to France, and I guess they come back afterwards. So, yeah, Askeladd decides, like, they see these, like, Frankish troops fighting against other Franks in this stronghold, and he decides that they're going to side with the attackers and loot the treasure from this place. And Askeladd's like, to Thorfinn, he goes, like, go convince those attackers to allow us to come to their aid, and we'll just give them half the spoils, blah, blah, blah. And Thorfinn is older now. He's still pretty short, though, but he's got a deeper voice and wild hair. And he's pissed at Askeladd because he feels he's already killed, like, more than enough people to have been acknowledged for doing something on the battlefield and earn a duel. But Askeladd's like, no, not yet. And he's like, you're going to have to bring me the head of that stronghold's commander if you want a duel. And so then Thorfinn Naruto runs off. He likes Naruto running with those two, like, swords behind him. He's good at it.
He's pretending the stronghold is Area 51.
Oh man!
Did anything happen with that, by the way?
People came and they had a festival. Like, no one's actually gonna go attack the stat. Like, I mean, they're not dumb.
I guess not. Yeah, that would have been a disaster if, like, U.S. military were, like, firing into the crowd.
Yeah, no.
So the encamped Franks have a Norse prisoner who is able to translate for them what Thorfinn is trying to propose for the joint attack. Their leader is also this squat little guy who's, like, an arrogant Frankish noble.
Fuck this dude. Jesus Christ.
His name is
I got so
Jabath.
tired of this guy. Like, oh my god.
He's got a bad case of Attack on Titan mouth. When he opens his mouth, it looks like a Titan's mouth opening. He's got lots of teeth.
He does a little bit.
He also doesn't like the Normanni, as he calls them. That's what they call the Vikings who've been invaded England. And Thorfinn tells him, though, like, all right, well, our forces are going to attack from the lakeside. And the Franks are like, well, that's a dumb plan. We tried to do that, but the water's really rough. There's a waterfall. We already had a ship sink trying to get upstream, so there's no point. And Thorfinn, like...
Yeah, how are you going to go upstream with a fucking waterfall in your way?
It seems ridiculous, exactly. Like, how are you doing that? And so Thorfinn plays hardball with them, though, and he's like, well, if you don't accept, our men will just join the stronghold side, and it's going to be that much more difficult for you. And so Jabath, the little guy, is like, fine, I'll share half the spoils, whatever. And so that night, there's, like, an eerie moment where there's, like, a Viking longboat prow, like the dragon head is just seen above the tree line on the mountain. That's very odd. And then the Franks begin their siege again in the morning. And they're like, yeah, like, it shows, like, how effective crossbows are at just, like, killing the fuck out of people. Like, even more so than bow and arrow, because, like, the Franks inside the stronghold have crossbows, and they're just murdering people. They're also using, like, boiling oil, and, like, they're just getting nowhere with the siege. And Thorfinn's like, all right, we got the siege going. My job's done here. Somebody point out this stronghold commander for me. And he sees this guy with, like, a feather on his head, and Naruto runs off towards him. And Jabath, like, yells after him. He's like, oh, whatever. Just then, the Vikings come running out of the fucking forest.
It's so fucking epic.
This is apparently one of the biggest moments in the manga.
This is an amazingly epic scene. I was like, what? It was really good.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel the energy rolling off those guys as they're running with the ships on their shoulders, and they're just like, ah, or whatever the fuck they're chanting as they run through the forest and come bursting out.
I loved that, like, all amazing. Of the people around were like, there was a dragon. I loved that.
I just love how Askeladd is, like, standing at the bow, and he's just like, yeah, forward. He's, like, standing on top of this thing. It's crazy. And so, yeah, they throw their boats into the water on the lake side. And so now they have, like, a massive advantage because there's, like, no defenses on that side of the fort. Thorfinn also, like, does this crazy jump to get on the wooden walls of the fortress. Like, he jumps across, like, the entire moat. It's like a long jump that would put, like, Olympic jumpers to shame. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's exaggerated, for sure.
Yeah. And even though there are no real defenses, like, still the crossbow fire is, like, reaching Askeladd's men on the boats. And so he's getting a little bit worried, but then the fire stops, and it's because Thorfinn has climbed over the walls, and he just starts, like, slicing through people like butter. It's ridiculous. There's, like, this first-person camera of him, like, rolling his way towards the commander, like, slicing people up, and he just easily cleaves this guy's head off, like basically like he's Tanjiro or something.
I love that he easily killed him, but then like the head fell over and he was like, fuck, and he has to go after it.
That was good, yeah. He's not perfect, you know.
Yeah.
He has to dive into the moat. And so the Franks have to like split up their men, take some guys off gate defense to try to deal with the Vikings. And that just proves deadly because as soon as they split up, like the Frank army on the outside like breaks through the gate, and the Vikings in the back like just slaughter the guys who got sent there. And so the battle's basically over.
The Vikings actually slaughtered the guys in the back so hard that like when the Franks get back there, they're like, what the fuck?
What the fuck is this? Yeah, they're just like, they haven't seen this before. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jabath, the noble guy, marches his men inside the walls, and he's like, they're like, what are we going to do about these Normanni? And he's like, well, they have to take the mountain back with their boats, so that's where we'll attack them, because sailors are weak as babes when they're on land. Little does he know that Askeladd thought ahead, and his men have taken all of the treasure in the stronghold, because they got there first. And they're already like sailing out of there. Like Askeladd like calls back to the shore. He's like got a crown on and all this jewelry all over him.
It's good.
He's like, in the spirit of our deal, I'll grant you the victory, but we'll just take all the treasure, and that's a fair deal, right? And Jabath is like, you son of a bitch.
I mean, I can't believe he's screaming, you son of a bitch, when he was going to double cross them the whole time.
It's
I'm
true.
Like, you're a son of a bitch. Fuck you. Like, everyone's a son of a bitch in this anime. Yeah. Like,
he thought he was like the smart bastard in this battle, but nope, Askeladd is the smarter and bigger bastard.
yep.
And so they're also like, oh, where's Thorfinn? I guess he like died or something. But no, he just swims back to the boat, and he has the commander's head, and he throws it at Askeladd's feet, and he demands a duel. And Askeladd's like, okay, but not right now, because like we're getting fired at by arrows and they have to get back down the river. And this was the funny part where they have to get over this waterfall.
Okay, this was bullshit, because like that thing would have died. Like the whole boat would have just broken.
Try to justify it. So like maybe like this waterfall wasn't too insane. It was pretty mediocre.
It was not too insane. Don't even bullshit yourself, Leo.
They have really strong boats. I'm just saying, so like if they're going over the waterfall, if they maybe moved the immense amount of treasure they had to the back of the boat, plus all the men, then the boat could have stayed fairly straight as it came over it.
Yeah, I agree with that, but the men didn't move towards the back of the boat.
They did not,
Yeah.
right. And then it could have landed, it still would have landed in the front first, but nowhere near as steep as you would initially would have thought. Like that's the only way I could kind of justify that, but
as
it's still a big stretch.
As it turns out, it kind of looks like something out of Looney Tunes, because this boat is like 80% off of the waterfall, and it's still just hanging in midair, like in no gravity or something. It's really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, they survive, and they start sailing down the river, and they escape, and they're good to go, basically.
Does anyone else think that Askeladd's name just sounds like ass clap?
Yes.
I do now.
saying.
Thank you.
It's funny how they pronounce it in the Japanese. Like they say like Askeladd, which I don't know if that's like a more correct pronunciation. I don't know. If anybody knows more about like Norse pronunciation, and if Askeladd is supposed to be said like Askeladd or something, let us know, because I don't know
This
anything.
show is very good. Like it keeps you entertained, even though it's mostly action, which I usually am not entertained by.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good show. It is.
Yeah, I know I was saying I wasn't like super into Vinland yet when I
It got
picked
better.
It up. Yeah, but what happened, like I was telling Leo, I went back and watched those episodes again, and when I watched them again, like I got a lot more out of them this time. Like there was a lot of stuff I missed.
They just started it differently. I think they just needed. They could have had a better start and like rearranged things.
Yeah,
but it did get better. Yeah.
Well, was it like this start is different than the manga?
Yes, it is. Like I think the manga starts with this battle or something.
Yeah, having read partial of the manga, I feel like this is where it starts. Like the other stuff, I didn't really know much about. But like when we got to this part, I was like, oh, I totally remember them running across the land with their boats, but I don't remember everything before this.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's like in the first chapter or something. Like it's like one of the very first things that happens in the manga, and then they flash back to the whole Tor's story and everything before. So yeah,
Yeah, but it's the boat scene was so good. I was
it's
like, holy fuck!
running through the woods, the way it was animated, and then when they came charging out of the forest, oh my god!
Oh, I know.
It was so epic.
you know what else is epic? Carole Tuesday. Kat,
It is
let's hear
every
about it.
week. Every week it is. Okay, so episode 19 of 24. People get ready. Okay, so you find out at the beginning that this is the first winter in Alba that's ever happened due to that plant explosion.
Yeah,
Right, because
And
they
everything is
control
just-
the weather.
I just imagine a day, like a whole world just without winter. It feels weird to me, but
Kat,
I guess people
in a
live that
state
way.
where we get the full effect of all 4 seasons.
I know. But even in the U.S., there are people who just never go through winter, I guess.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
people
just-
living in southern Florida and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
southern. Yeah, they've never witnessed a winter. And they're like, "What's a jacket?" And you're like, "Which jacket
You're
do
a
you want me to
weirdo.
show you?"
Yeah.
I got 4 for each season.
But yeah, so they start planning. The girls start planning for the Sidonia Festival because they want this year to be really good, not like last year where they were, this like last minute thing and it, was all
They
mess.
got booed off stage.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Angela is upset by the stalker and her singing is like being affected. So Tao is upset by that, and he investigates like the stalker because it's affecting Angela's singing and therefore his work. And he takes Angela's pet AI to investigate, and finds out that it's being hijacked by the stalker. But it was too sophisticated, for, the police to actually find. So
Yeah, they say like the file must have been like camouflaged in the code somehow. Yeah.
So the girls decide that they want to make a flashy entrance to the show. And they're like trying to come up with all these like thoughts on how they're going to do this. And they're all just bullshitty and like not going to happen.
The one that made me laugh was like Tuesday saying she's going to ride a hot air balloon. And the reason I laughed is that's how the receiver in the NFL, Antonio Brown, showed up at like Oakland Raiders camp this season. And then the rest of his season has been an absolute shit show ever after that, which
And
is
he's now been
released
dropped
by
from
the second team.
New England.
So I was laughing at the hot air balloon thing.
Wait,
but,
so you guys don't want to start these shows with Kat doing flaming batons? I think that would be really cool for the YouTube
No.
videos.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's
It
not
just
happening.
ends with Kat on fire.
yeah.
Oh God, it would too. I'm clumsy as fuck. But yeah, so Tuesday's mom wants. You find out Tuesday's mom wants Tao to help and like sends that advisor to ask Tao, and Tao's like, no thanks, man. Me and politics don't get along. And the politician says something sinister about how Tao will find himself working for them
I
eventually.
don't necessarily think her mom sent Jerry to talk to Tao. I think that this is Jerry's doing all on his own.
Jerry does seem to be like the schemer. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that potentially,
Okay.
yeah.
I always just assume that, yeah, but you're right. He does a lot of things on his own. But yeah, Carole knows someone called Emil who, so like they get, the girls get to the festival. Carole sees someone called Emil who calls himself Ezekiel on stage and is like a big star. And he pretends he doesn't know Carole. I feel like this will be a thread later because they just do this
Yeah.
quick aside.
Yeah.
I feel like this will be explored in detail later. But yeah, that's interesting. And then Angela is they find out like at the thing, Angela is performing right before them with that new song, which is like shitty because they're trying to make a name for themselves and they have to compete against this. And she came in secret, of course, to avoid the stalker. And Tao thinks the stalker will act when she's on stage, and he's totally right. So he like the stalker texts her like right as they start to be performing.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just like high tension. I thought like, okay, so the stalker does this thing where you think he like makes it so that everyone thinks that the stalker is someone in the crowd, and he even does things so that all of the security goes after him. Mm-hmm. But it's too easy. So like, as the watcher, you're like, something else is going on.
Right.
Yeah. And so while that's all happening, the performance on stage is still going on. And I loved how Erdogan like crouched down all dramatic, like at the beginning, and the fans are like cheering. And
who am I?
Yeah.
Tell me who I am.
It was it's so Erdogan though. That's so what he'd do. And they arrest the plant guy, but then they find out immediately he's just a plant. And they're like, whoa, no, what does this mean? And Tao kind of figures out like, oh, he has to be backstage. Like, he's probably one of the staff. And so Tao like runs after him, and he gets to the guy right before he was going to shoot Angela, and like gets him basically. And he was gonna shoot her. What the fuck?
Yeah, fuck this guy. God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's an over obsessive fan. If I can't have her, nobody can have her, which is basically his
pretty
mentality.
much. Yeah. And the thumbs up that Tao gives Angela, like as she's about to perform, like, I got him, you're safe, was really cute and like out of character for Tao.
Do you
and
think you could perform after you just found out somebody stopped somebody from killing you? And you're like,
she doesn't know that he was going to kill her, though.
Yeah, she just kind of like looks over and sees that the guy's taken care of, sees Tao like thumbs up, and she just like, oh, this huge burden is off my shoulders. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I imagine later when she finds out like that she was about to die, she'll have like a panic attack. But right now, it just would be like it's huge flood of relief. So of course it feels good. But I thought the thumbs up was so out of character and cute. I kind of ship them now. Like, there's like undercurrents of that throughout this, but I definitely think they could get together. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's cute. And then after that whole affair, like the girl's performance just seems like anticlimactic to me. And the song was just okay.
I think it was perfect.
It was good. It was another of their songs, but like it wasn't as interesting as what happened before.
Yeah, it's hard to be that interesting.
Yeah.
I thought Angela's performance was good, except I didn't like the second half when her voice just came like auto-tuned to shit. Like it was just super synthesized and like Hatsune Miku or something for a minute there.
It was very sympathized. Like I didn't really love Angela's song either, just because it's too auto-tuned.
Yeah, Angela also looks real good though. By the way, holy shit.
Yeah. Shit.
Oh, her purple dress.
Yeah, and her hair like looked amazing. Yeah. But I will say, yeah, the Carole Tuesday song, like, I'm not that impressed by the song. I did like the lyrics, though, and I thought they fit in kind of with the theme of the title, which is People Get Ready, which is a song written by Curtis Mayfield, who performed it with The Impressions. And Curtis Mayfield was, like, this really well-known, like, artist in, like, the mid-60s who wrote a lot of, like, songs that became huge anthems for the civil rights movement in the United States. Like, they would sing these songs, like, during marches to inspire each other. And, yeah, like, he's just really known for placing, like, social conscious into African-American music, like, being one of the first people to do that. And so, like, I think that sense of social consciousness is, like, sort of present in the Carole Tuesday song, Message in the Wind, and telling them, like, there's, like, a change that's going to come, but they need to, like, come together, basically. And like the way obviously the world is going right now, the Mars is shaping up with this like election and everything. People are being torn apart, and Carole Tuesday are singing about people coming together, and that's clearly one of the messages of this anime. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a really good show. I'm excited to see how it ends. I'm nervous because we're getting close to the end, and I just want more and more. Like, I don't know.
Right? Yeah, I feel like that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got that 7-minute miracle coming up, so we got...
I know. If it's like some shit after all of this, I'm going to be pissed.
There'll be a lot of build up for nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly want a little bit more from Skip and Crystal, because I loved both their first songs.
I agree.
It was so good.
I would like that.
And I want to know more about this Ezekiel guy, because he does have a past.
We're going to find out about it, I'm sure. Yeah.
But if that's it, I think we can close this out. Thank you all for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. You can also find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for any and all updates. You can also come hang out on our Discord. More and more people are joining and have fun in there. It's good to chat about stuff every week.
Actually had a large influx of people the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we're getting some new members on there.
So
it's good to see all you guys.
I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Discord is great. It's just like, it's my favorite messaging application for sure. I spend too much time on there.
We all do.
So yeah, with all that, we will see you next time.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Peace.
Later.